Hi, this is Matt from Skybow. You'd like to generate documents based on SharePoint metadata on a scheduled base, or want to create any kind of QR code, then Skybow has some powerful actions to do that.
So we've implemented a couple of new background actions. First of all, we have now also the possibility to generate documents exactly the same as on client side, also on server side, which means you can now schedule to generate a document, like monthly generate a report, or using the triggered actions that are triggered in the background. It's exactly the same from the document template perspective. And yeah, we will post a link in the video description to the document generator introduction for you afterwards. In combination with a new document generator action, we also have a new action to convert these documents, whether a generated one or just any existing Office document, which is stored somewhere in SharePoint, in a SharePoint library, and generate a PDF out of it. So those are the two main actions that are there to generate PDFs in the background. But we've implemented some additional things which are also quite helpful in when you generate documents. One will be the QR code. So as you can see here, we can generate, in that example, we generate a QR code, which is having the link to the actual item. So if you print it out or send it via PDF, then you can scan it with your phone and directly open up the actual expense report in SharePoint. And to do that, we can also use another action, which is insert image to PDF. So we generate the QR code and we insert it into the PDF, which was generated just before in the previous action. But we can take any other PDF that is already there and insert a QR code, for example. So there are several possibilities with these with these 4 new actions. If you talk about QR codes, of course, it's not just a link. It can also be like a Wi-Fi code or a V card or even invoices, Swiss invoice or other invoices, you can generate using this QR code. I can show you some examples right afterwards in the demo. So I will show you exactly that scenario in my demo. And yeah, let's jump into the demo. So as always, I'm using my expense demo case. So I have one expense request. It's in the last approval step. So we have 2 approvals, and the last one is management group. And the scenario here is once we approve that request, then it automatically generates a PDF in the background. It adds a QR code to it, and it will store it into a separate library. So we talk about this expense 008, and as soon as I hit approve, you really want to approve? Yes. Now it takes a couple of seconds. It's completely approved. It takes a couple of seconds, and in my scenario, I'm creating the PDF I will create in this library. For now, we see only 6 and 7, and 8 will appear in a couple of seconds. Let's see. Normally that takes, it's like normal triggered actions. It takes some seconds until it's there. Come on. Otherwise, I'll show you the one from the other one. Maybe in the meantime, I'll show that one. This one is the work that was generated. It's a PDF, and the QR code, and you can quickly scan it with your phone. It has a URL in my case. So if we scan it, we have a URL to the display form of this item here. And let's see, now it's here, as you can see, a few seconds ago. So if we look into how this can be done in the background, I'm switching over to my Solution Studio. It's on my expense list. I have a trigger action. It triggers as soon as the item is updated. And if we go to actions, first I have a condition where I simply check if the status has changed and if it was approved. So any other status change will not be true. And in that case, I have scope control and these 4 actions. So those are the 4 actions as we can see them here. And the document generator itself is, like I said, it's exactly the same. One main difference, maybe I have to reload, that's why it's not showing the libraries. Here, of course, we cannot download or show the document right away. It's just, we can just store it in a library. So, but we also can have a static file. We can get it from somewhere, a dynamic path. The rest is really the same, single item, multi-item, and so on. Let me real quick refresh. Looks like the libraries are not loaded. All right, sorry for that. Here we go. So once again, so we have the library. I will store the document in my case in the site assets, because we will use that document afterwards. So I'm storing it in site assets. Then the second action will convert this document. So I choose again the site assets, and I can take the item ID is just the output from this action here. So if we look at the outputs, we can access from that document generator, we can access the item ID. So that's the item ID from the document that was just generated before. This one I will pass because I need to pass the item ID. And then I can again say where to store that PDF. And I will store it in the final place. It's expense reports, it's a separate library. Yeah, just in the root folder. The name, if you leave it empty, it stays the same, just using PDF. And I could say overwrite. So if I would generate it again and again, it would just overwrite the document. Then, after that PDF is generated, it would have no QR code. So we take this action here. And in the QR code section, here, as you can see, I'm passing the URL dynamic. So web URL to the disk form and then the ID. You can specify some the size of the QR code from 1 to 10. And I have 2 options. I could store this QR code as a file somewhere in a library, or in my case, I say the output should be base64 because that will be directly the input for my next action. So this will not be stored somewhere. It's just available for subsequent actions. So if I take the last one, this insert image to PDF, I can say my image source is coming from a library if I already have an existing QR code, or I say base64, and the base64 image is coming from that action here. So generate QR code, we have a base64 output. So again, if I go to actions, that's the PDF, that's the QR code. We have a couple of things available. So if I have base64, these other output parameters are empty, but the base64 is available. So that's my output. And then again, I say where to store that PDF, and it's a similar one as above. So I take the same PDF, and here I can say where to position the QR code. So on the first page only, on the last page only, on all the pages, if you have multiple pages, horizontal line, left, middle, right, top, middle, bottom, and so on, to make some offsets and define how big the image should be. And that's it. The image, the QR code is automatically added. And once successful, that's why I was using that scope control. If everything is successful, I will delete the document that was generated in the site assets library. Because that's the Word file that was generated. That's not going to be deleted otherwise. That's the full thing here. Maybe some more details about QR codes, because that's quite powerful. If we look at some other scenarios, let me jump over. I mean, there are different QR codes that could be done and or generated. What I was using is just a simple URL, but you can also have a Wi-Fi or, like I said, a Swiss QR code. And to do that, you can, in that, I'm sorry, going back here, you can add multi-line text. So if you add multi-line text like this, oops, I'm sorry. So multi-line, check, like this. So a QR code is always different. It has some payloads. And if we look at some examples, you can always Google payload, for example, for a Swiss QR code should look like this. So this is a Swiss QR code. So you have some IBAN number, some recipient address, etc. And each line is defined. And if you generate exactly this one, then you get a proper Swiss QR code, for example, for Swiss invoice QR code. You can scan it with your e-banking app, and it will work. The same is for Wi-Fi. For example, Wi-Fi needs to be in that structure here. So you have Wi-Fi, double point S, double point, your name, and T, double point, what's the type, and then the password. So P for password. And if you do that, here I have an example where I have 3 items. One is a link. This one is the Swiss QR code. I just added it to a multi-line field to test it. And the last one is the Wi-Fi. And here I'm having a trigger action. Once added, it will generate a QR code, and I will store it here. So, come on. First one is the URL. This one is the URL. The second one is the Swiss QR invoice. And the last one is the Wi-Fi. So if you would scan that one with your phone, it would recognize it as a Wi-Fi. And this one will not work because it's just my Wi-Fi and my password, something like that. But yeah, with this new action, you can generate all these QR codes and then print it or add it to any existing PDF document.
I hope I was able to show you that the skybow actions are easy to configure using low code or even no code.